Hi, students. You are welcome to this session of discussion on just a little learning is a dangerous thing by Alexander Pope. We can say that he is a great thinker, very greatly influenced by the then philosophical and social background of England. And he has rightly pointed out his view on the duty and the standard of literary criticism of his day. So I am Dr. Naveen Kumar Jha talking about his just work and at the same time his socio-political environment. We can say that there were so many 18th century philosophers who were just leading the nation to the just situation of region and logic. We can say that they were rightly talking about a reasonable discussion about everything. So they are just enlightenment thinkers. Alexander Pope is also just an enlightenment thinker, because just he has also believed in the importance of science and reason. And as a scientist was thinking that the whole world is knowable and testable, so was Alexander Pope. He was also thinking that just we can understand and know the world just through our scientific temperament. Because it is through the scientific temperament we can better understand and know the world. Here, there should be the chance of test and retest of the knowledge that we have got. We cannot say that what we have imagined and assumed is the final truth, and we can just stand by only those of truth which we have known personally by our personal views, by our personal methods. So instead, he has tried to just make the knowledge universally acceptable, and it should be true, and a knowledge becomes true when just it becomes testable, that every person can go and test it through the scientific parameter and so on. So just we can say that when we go his work and essay on criticism, we can say that he has also just elevated criticism to the level of scientific just evaluation of the work. He was trying to infer that just literary criticism is not just a very much personal evaluation of the work of the writer or the poet or critic. We can say that there should be a scientific parameter, and it should be knowledge based evaluation. It should be evaluation that other person can also taste by the same parameter. Only when we can establish criticism as a scientific evaluation process, and everything is just to be done through our vision of just work that you are undertaking. So we can say that the idea that he has presented in an essay on criticism is not the 18th century idea. We cannot say that it was in 18th century only that people have started doing just a scientific work and scientific testable study of the subject matter. We can say that this idea is rather older than the 18th century idea, and it goes back just a few thousand years. When the people were just talking and studying everything from scientific vision and scientific temperament. So the theme and tones of an essay on criticism has been a critical one. When we try to say that we should just make a critical work, by which he means that it should be a scientific evaluation of the work that we are going to undertake. So he has criticized the poet and the critic both, because both were not going to do as the standard of science requires. We cannot say that it is a whimsical work of a person who can sit somewhere and make imaginative theory to evaluate the work and to write something on. So it is just by the common standard, testable standard that we should develop, and we can develop this standard only when we are just knowing the just fact in entirety. So he says that literary criticism is to represent criticism in common life as a whole. It is not simply the work. Just a work reflects the common life of the people. So unless we know the common life of the people, we cannot say that we can understand everything correctly. And so it is not just a piece of work which is isolated from the common life concern. We can say the people's life is generally a social life, a collective life, where just the writer is going to think collectively, socially, culturally, before he is going to write something about all these kind of things. So we can say that in the poem, just that you are going to undertake a little knowledge is dangerous thing. Just Pope's lexical choice influences the way the reader captures the essence of the poem. He has just used the word that is to reflect on his just saying of explaining scientific temperament. Here just we can talk about the word dangerous. We can say it is a provocative word. We can say that it is a very much provocative word. We are going to make just a very much to just hint at the people. We are going to say that people should be just warned against all these kind of things that they were doing, that without knowing the thing they are trying to pass the comment. So it is very much a harmful consequence that we find, and we can understand that this is also going to be a dangerous situation in the literary field as well. So Pope just is saying that to avoid this kind of danger in literature, we should try to make just a thorough study of the life of the people. So and we can say he's a man of knowledge because he has used the classical allusions. Just in the poem itself, we can say that there is a reference of Pierian spring that reflects on just the fountain and source of just the good poetry and classical poetry. Here he is showing that it is not by tiny a little knowledge that we can make a perfect knowledge. That people are just going to take little bit water just to drench themselves, but they cannot just make just a very much good idea from all these kind of things. So they should express thoughts only when just they are just drinking much thoughts from the Pierian springs. Here from we are getting inspiration. Here from we are getting just knowledge and so on. So just he censors the romantic notion of young poets. You find that when we are talking the just romantic notions of young poets, we can say just they are fired at the first sight. At the first sight itself, they become excited because it is just not based on the very much in-depth study of the subject. So and the first sight excitement is not going to lead us to the true conclusion of the situation. So they are filled with passions. They are not filled with full knowledge. So when we are just making any critical work just on the passion, we are not coming to the right conclusion. It is not going to be reasonable in scientific as well, because passion cannot lead us truth. It can just create an illusion. Just it may be very much personal observation, and it is just a lopsided view that you are going to cast there in your critical work. So just he is going to criticize the romantic notions of young poets, and because he knows that they are excited at the first hand study. They are not going to just make an in-depth study or intensive study of the subject concerned. So they do not get full knowledge about it. And when just we are led by our passions, we are just traveling to different directions. So we can say he is going to conclude that a little philosophy includes just man's mind to atheism. We are not going to find the truth and rule of the life, rule of the nature. Just to come to the rule of life and nature, we have to take a deep just absorption into the system and so on. So he said that we should have the depth in philosophy, which brings man's mind just to religion. Religion means the order, which is essential for society. And when we have little philosophy, we are going to doubt the very much just assumption of religious theory. So just he is going to declare that person to be atheist who does not have belief into the system. And belief develops only when just we have a very deep knowledge, deep philosophy about the man's life and situation. So just religiosity is just the very much the classical conclusion of life, which comes out of the deep philosophical investigation of the fact and so on. So the writing of bad criticism is actually going to hurt poetry more than writing of bad poetry does. So which is worse? Whether it is writing bad criticism or it is writing bad poetry. He says that critically work is more serious work. So when just we are making a bad criticism, it hurts more to society. It just is going to make society deviate from the actual just pattern of life. So it is better to write bad poetry than to pass out the bad criticism. So for a critic, it is very dangerous that he is just making any comment having the little knowledge about the classical writers and the rules of society and just a very much a scientific finding of the fact. So each critic has his or her own opinion. That is quite different thing. So when we are trying to apply our own opinion to a particular work of art, we can say that we are not coming to the right conclusion. So if it is applied incorrectly, a critic can actually censor a talented writer. It is just very dangerous that we are going to kill a talented writer when we are making a bad criticism. So our work, a critic's work, is just to protect and preserve a talented writer. And your bad opinion about the talented writer can just be very much harmful to the literary world, because just we are not actually in the position to say who is the talented one and who is not the talented one, because you too have no ability to declare that kind of thing, because you as a critic lack lots of knowledge before we are going to make that kind of critical work. So a critic is to be honest, wise, and he does not fall prey to envy. It should not be partial judgment. It should not be envious judgment or disgusting judgment. We can say that our work of critic is just an honest and wise work that just is actually driven by the true knowledge of the just life and just society. So the Greek just came to understand poetry through following the rules of nature. They were just, we can say that every natural order is following a certain rule of life. Nature is not going to deviate the rule of natural world. We can see the rule of coming of season. We find that it is exactly and clearly the defined time at which the just season is coming and season is changing, and it is under certain just a condition that a particular kind of season is coming and particular kind of season is going off. Just when a certain geographical condition is made, rainy season starts. When a certain geographical condition is made, a spring starts. So what does it mean? That it is at a certain conditioning that the season is coming and season is going. So it is just the rule of nature that it follows. Now we can also say that sunrise and sunset and movement of the earth and everything we find in the nature, in the natural order, that they have been following certain rules. And so he says, as nature is perfect to follow the rules, naturally critics should also be perfect to follow the rules of life. So we should follow nature, how just correctly nature is following the rule, and so should be the criticism of an honest critic. And only then we can say an just honest criticism is to come. So we cannot say that a critic should be slave to the rules and conventions. We should not take anything for granted, that okay, just this has been the rules in society for just centuries, so we are going to follow this rule up. No, this kind of convention is misleading us. So whatever rule is coming in society, that should be tested and retested on the basis of argument and logic and reasoning. And only then we can say, okay, this rules is to be applied or this is not to be applied. And if you say that from convention point of view that it is going on, so we are also carrying on this kind of rule, we can say that we are misled, just we are biased, and we start criticizing the work from our personal angle. That cannot give you the right conclusion. So we can actually just make the thing that we should cast off everything which is not rule based, which is not going to follow the perfect rule of society. So saying that it is convention, it is tradition, so we are just going to follow this convention and tradition without application of our idea of logic and reasoning, we can say that we are falling into a just a bad critical criticism. So truth, that beauty and good poetry are made up of combination of all their parts. A good poetry is the product of truth and beauty. So we should try to find the truth, and truth is found only by scientific observation. Whatever scientific rules are here, say of gravity and say of density of water and so on, we find they are just based on truth and facts and substances, and we can just test it again and again. We can throw the things upwards, and 1,000 times we can do this work, and 1,000 times it happens that the things are just once again falling on the ground. It is what the rule of just gravitation is, and it tells that just because of the mass of the earth, it catches everything towards itself and towards its center. And this is what the truth is, which has been found by Newton and someone else, and beautifully it has been explained into the experiment and so on. So likewise you can say this should be the conclusion of writing poetry, that you should try to find some social truth, cultural truth into just the poetic work, and it should be beautifully embedded there. So Pope offered some wisdom that critics should follow. Wisdom is a very, very broad word, we can say, that it makes our just insight sharp to see everything within. And so a wise person is just truth, following truth, because just it is through his sharp just insight that he is going to find the truth underlying. So we should, being the critic, use our wisdom where truth prevails. And so the importance of just humility is also to be established in society. And we can do all this kind of thing after studying everything very deeply. It is by deep understanding that we can achieve just wisdom, and we can find the truth also. We can find the rules of life also, that should be just coded into poetic work, and that should be decoded by a critic as well. So to poetry be natural, written on predetermined artificial rules worked out by the classical poets. We can say all these classical poets, Homer and so on, have been just trying to find out the social and cultural rules of life, and so they have expressed everything in their work and so on. So we say that this poem has been first published in May 1711 in prose form, and we already know that it has been composed in heroic couplets, and pairs of adjacent rhyming lines are just in iambic pentameter. It has been written in the Horatian mode of satire. It is a satirical work because he is criticizing the style of working of critic, and he says that saying that little learning is a dangerous thing is satirical statement, because just he is challenging very much the very little knowledge of the critic, who is saying himself and who is going to feel himself proud of his work. No, there should not be any sense of pride there, because you do not have the command over knowledge. So poem covers a range of good criticism and advice, and represents simply literary ideals of Pope age. So we can say that the basic rules of art is to follow nature, as just nature is true in its life, in its regular just movement, so should be the poetry. And we can say that to imitate Homer is to follow or imitate nature, because just he was exact in his observation, he was exact in truth finding. And so when we are just going to read the classical work of Homer, we can find that we are following or imitating nature. He is as perfect in his observation as is nature itself. So classical artist discovers the natural rules and laws. They are just, we can say that they are going to lay down the philosophy of tragedy writing. Suppose they are going to lay down the principle of criticism, principle of rules of poetry composition, and so on. So they are going to discover different kinds of rules to give shape of literary genres as well. So just they have been just inventors of natural rules and laws of different genres of literary art. So we can say the just wit is just a polished and decorated form of language in which they are going to write and cast their views that they have found by the study of all these kind of things. So style and not thoughts and thought should go together. We cannot say that we should all only try to focus on making good use of language, and we should ignore the style as well. So when just either you are giving importance to style or you are giving importance to thought, and if we are not giving importance of both these kind of things, we are not going to write a good literary work. So nature is to be found both in matter and manner of expression. We should understand what thing just we have found as a truth, and what is the way or manner by which we have expressed the thing. So when the matter is also classic and when the expression is also classic, we can say that it becomes the beautiful work that Homer has been doing and other poets and critical writers have been doing. So both are inseparable. We can say that a good and best literary work is the product of both. Just in the best knowledge, best understanding of matter, and the best knowledge of manner of expression. So just we should try to portray the world as we see it. We should just not try to impose our personal vision about the world. As the world is moving, so we should try to find the rules of it, and then we should try to come to the truth of writing human nature, and that is to be found into common humanity, not in eccentricity. Eccentricity, our just flight of emotions, flight of passions. which cannot just make us know what is the common rule of humanity. So that should be very much thing that we can understand, and you find that it is going to be very important part of our life that we should try to capture in our critical work and poetic work. So it is all about Pope's view, and we should make it a stop for today. Thank you.